This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, Agun Erev Shabbos. This is Haftorah series number 77. Haftorah series number 77. Haftorah's Shabbos Chol Hamoed. Now this is the Haftorah that speaks about the Milchemes Gog uMagog most clearly. And the pasuk says, "V'haya b'yom hahu b'yom ba'igog al admas Yisrael nu Adonai Elohim ta'alech hamosi b'yapi." Now, why do we talk about Milchemes Gog uMagog on Sukkos? So the Torah brings down a tradition, and this is also called in the Mukei Yosef. V'hachi Amar Rav Hai, Shamati mipi chachamim. I heard from the wise. The revival of the dead is destined to be in Nisan. And the victory over Gog uMagog will be in Tishrei. Mishum hachi b'Nisan, we say the Haftarah of the dry bones. Maftirin ho'atzamai sayaveshos. U'v'Tishrei b'yoim boy Gog. And on Tishrei, on the day that Gog came. Yeah? So basically, we have a tradition that this is the month of the victory over Gog uMagog, and that's how we learn about Haftarah's Gog uMagog in Tishrei. In Nisan, we read about Tchias HaMesim and the dry bones of Yecheskel. Rav Shamshin Rafal Hirsch, in his commentary to Parshas Pinchas, he finds a connection not just between Gog uMagog and Tishrei, but between Gog uMagog and Sukkos specifically. Because Rav Shamshin Rafal Hirsch analyzes the etymology of the words Gog and Magog. What does the word Gog mean? Like Gag, a roof. Magog, the mem, is a causative, to give off the roof, which is the exact antithesis to Sukkah. Sukkah is a roofless structure. In a sukkah, we have nothing separating between us and the forces of heaven. It's just us and God, misdabek yachad. But the concept of a roof and to give off a roof indicates that they want to sever the connection between the Almighty and God. In fact, I once heard in the name of Rav Moshe Shapiro that the symbol of the cross is you have a vertical line that represents the connection of heaven and earth, and the horizontal line indicates they want to sever that connection. And there's some type of tradition that Nimrod had that symbol as well. But the sukkah represents a flimsy covering. In other words, we are connected to the upper worlds. But Gog uMagog, roof, and the proliferation, dissemination of this concept is the exact antithesis to sukkah. So let's see if we could read this. As the Rav Shamshin Rafal Hirsch in Hebrew is very hard to read. As you know, it was not written originally in Hebrew. It was written in German. He says, in the second paragraph, Gam Maimer Chazal b'Mesachas Sukkah, Hani Shivim Parim Keneged Mi. That which Chazal say, that the 70 parim correspond to the 70 nations in the world. Roya bekarbanes hamosav shel Sukkos, bitoy shel karban leklal ha'anushas. They see in the offerings of the Yom Tov of Sukkos an expression for all of mankind. V'amru sham shekarban yisrael mevate bekesher lechaper al klal ha'anushas. And the karbanos of Klal Yisrael are coming to atone for mankind in general. Im tefisaseinu eino mutas, if our understanding is not faulty, Hare bakasha zu mistayes ba'uvda shenigudze mizbatel b'merutzas hadayros. This pursuit supports in the phenomenon that the opposition to this has become nullified as we go through the generations. But ultimately, mankind will return to God in their activities, meaning there is an idea that in the merit that mankind ultimately will revert to Hashem, Hashem preserves them now. Karbanos Hamoed Shechag HaSukkos mevate'im amitos shenemru achar kach ha'idei neviim. The offerings of Sukkos articulate the truth that were said later through the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im describe the historical purpose of the lawlessness of the nations and Klal Yisrael's status relative to them. Therefore, the Navi ties the Yom Tov of Sukkos to the future purpose of the nations. We find in Zechariah, we find that the Navi describes the struggle of the nations of the world against the Jewish people. Ultimately, they will be subdued to God in Jerusalem, and that mankind will celebrate Sukkos every year. But not only that, we have the audacity to express the thought. Yechezkel describes the wars, the final wars, that the nations of the world will wage, that the leader of the nations of the world are called Goig. What does this name Goig come from? By the way, the Torah writes Goig u'Magog. The gematria of Goig u'Magog is 70. That represents all 70 nations. But Ein Zeh Rachok Loimar Shegoig Nigzar Mishorish Gagag. Goig represents the word roof. It refers to the creation of the roof. That means Goig is the opposite of the Sukkah. Sukkah is chach, that is unstable. It has power that was not placed through any artisan or craftsman. But the whole journey of mankind in this world is in opposition to this. A illusory ideal seduces mankind. They have the power. We only have the power to set up the funais. All we could do in this world is make walls. Kedei ligdar as techumam klape chaverim labriya. We only have the ability to make walls in this world. Walls in this world gives us the ability to carve out a spot for ourselves relative to other people. But to make that ceiling, we have no ability to carve out a spot for ourselves relative to God. In this world, we can only make a wall, but we can't make a ceiling. But mankind thinks that not only can we carve out a space and an arena for ourselves vis-a-vis others, we could also do that toward God. People think they could take their destiny in their hands and protect themselves. They think they could crown their sphere in this world through the roof, not dependent on God. This is the eternal struggle between the Gag and the Sukkah. We believe every human being has their arena where they flourish, but we have no ability to block out the forces on high. This is the eternal struggle between the Gag, Milchemes Gog u'Magog, and the Sukkah. Rayon ha'tatuim shel ha'Gag, the false illusion of the roof. Meyaches gedulo l'adam ha'adam lo yimtza b'monach. Attributes such greatness to man, because it says man is in control of his own destiny. He could control all aspects of his life. I could block out other people, and I will control my fate, my destiny, my livelihood, my health, my future. But the Sukkah says no. And the problem with that attitude is it gives man no respite, because when you think you're in control of your own destiny, then you have to take everything into your own hands. But the truth of the Sukkah gives a person bitachon and simcha, submitting to the will of a higher force, realizing that your destiny is not in your control. He says, the Milchemes Gog u'Magog began with the building of the Migdal Bavel, but it will end. In other words, the beginning of the world was when the world got in trouble and the world built that Migdal, but the end of days will bring a culmination to the world when even the Gentiles come to celebrate Chag HaSukkos, recognizing that their illusion of the Migdal was really incorrect. Boinei HaMigdal daglu be'alakus utzamas. They jumped to divine identity, meaning they identified the divine with themselves, and they wanted to conquer the heavens. But those who build the Sukkah submit to God and rejoice in this world. He says as follows: other religions, they teach a person that the world to come comes through giving up this world. But Judaism teaches a person not to give up the happiness of this world to get Olam Haba. Judaism teaches a person how to be happy in Olam Hazeh. And the next world will then already begin in this world. This is the Torah that emanates from Chag Sukkos. And the Karbanos Hamoed, the influence we have on the Gentiles is we show them that to be happy in this world, although you may have your own sphere of control, but it's not vis-a-vis the heavens. We put up the flimsy roof and we demonstrate to the world. We proclaim to the world. And maybe this is one of the reasons why the Torah writes that we celebrate Sukkos in the rainy season, and the Torah asks, that's not when the Anani HaKavod came. They came in Nisan, and the Torah answers, well, if we sit in the Sukkah Nisan, it's not recognizable why we're doing it. The question is, what do we care what it's recognizable? What does Sukkah have to be? Who does it have to be recognized by? Why can't we do our tefillin? We do in the privacy of our own shul. All the mitzvahs we do in the privacy of our home. Who does the Sukkah have to be recognized by? But the answer is that the eternal struggle between Gog Magog and the Sukkah that began when the nations of the world built the Migdal and wanted to take their destiny in their own hands and black out the influence of the heavens. We go out into the world, and in the rainy season, when it starts getting cold outside, we teach the world that the only way to have happiness in the world is we have to bring Hashem into our life, submit our future and destiny to the will of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and that will allow us to have the faith and the trust that Hashem will take care of us, and we don't have to take everything in our own hands, and we should all be zoicha to a zman simchasenu and chagim uzmanim l'sasa and moadim l'simcha. Shkayach.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.